Hello, everyone. This is your host, John, aka Johnny Boy. Let's start with today's first story titled, Am I the arsehole for distancing myself from my daughter after she took her mother's side? I, 50 male, found out that my wife, 49 female of 20 plus years, was having an affair. I was completely hurt over this and have started divorce proceedings. Obviously, this has been hard on our four children, but I cannot spend the rest of my life with someone I can't trust. Before we got married, my wife's family had money and demanded I sign a prenup. I had no problem, but since then the family money has been lost due to bad investments and lawsuits. My wife was a stay-at-home mom for the majority of our marriage. Our youngest child is 19, and because of the prenup, she can't get alimony. In short, my wife will be screwed. The only thing we own together was our house, and while it is paid off, my wife won't be able to afford the upkeep fees, so she will effectively be homeless. I have no intention of giving her any type of support for any reason. Since serving my wife divorce papers, I have refused direct contact as my lawyer has advised, but she's now playing dirty by getting the children involved. We have two boys, 23 and 21, and two girls, 25 and 19, and my wife has been pleading with them to get me to agree to halt the divorce proceedings in favor of counseling. After I told my children that I had no interest wasting any more of my life with that woman, they have all essentially backed off except for my oldest, Christy. She's very close to her mother and can't imagine life where her parents aren't married. Christy tells me that her mother realizes her mistake and will do whatever it takes to make things right. She says that I owed it to the family to work things out. I refused and told her that it wasn't her place to make those kinds of demands. Since then, the only time Christy talks to me is when she's sobbing and asking me not to destroy the family. I understand that this is hard for her and offered to pay for therapy so she can cope, but she said there wouldn't be anything to cope with if I wasn't trying to divorce her mother. Since Christy is being too emotional to act within reason and refuse therapy, I have been resolved to limit contact until after the divorce. However, my other children are saying that Christy's behavior is getting worse. Am I the a-hole for taking a step away from my daughter for a while? Not the a-hole. She's an adult and should know what happens when you cheat. And the update. All right, I read a couple of responses and I just wanted to clarify some things. Clearly my "she will effectively be homeless" comment was misinterpreted, so let me set the record straight. Because my wife and I own the house together, so long as we sell the house and split the proceeds, she'll get something. My wife didn't give up her career to raise my children. We could have hired a nanny, but she didn't want that and chose to be a stay-at-home mom for our children. Because of her family money, she was getting a monthly allowance from the estate. Plus, I paid for a housekeeper to make things easier on her. Once my wife reached 30, she started getting a monthly allowance from the family estate, and the prenup addressed that, so I couldn't claim half. In exchange, she couldn't get alimony. I didn't want my children to get involved in the divorce. My wife decided to do that, and even brought up the reason why as a form of a preemptive strike. I only talk about the divorce when someone else brings it up, which Christy wants to do all the time. I am not abandoning my daughter. I'm just lowering contact with her until the divorce is finalized, because she's not letting up on trying to pressure me into taking her mother back and refuses to go to therapy that I will pay for. Also, to the comments asking why my wife cheated, it's a little offensive. I don't know how that changes anything or that I should care. However, the guy that she cheated on me with was younger, looked like he couldn't be any older than 30, so take that information and do what you will. And the final update. I just wanted to say that I was very grateful to all your kind words and support in how to deal with my daughter. I decided to follow some of your advice and have a scheduled sit down with her to explain that what goes on between her mother and I is not her fault, and that I simply can't ever go back to a woman who deceived me in such a big way. I told her that I try to be as forgiving and empathetic as possible, but I will not ever tolerate people who lie with malicious and selfish intent and try to cut them out of my personal life as much as possible. I was very calm when I said this and tried to be as loving as I could to my child, but it didn't work. Christy ended up breaking down and again tried to convince me not to divorce her mother and just forgive her. I refused and in the end went no contact with Christy for a little bit. I only spoke to her again 2 days before my other daughter's, Jane, age 20 birthday through a text, asking her to not bring up the divorce, since this was going to be the first time my wife and I would be in each other's presence since I filed. I sent the same text to her mother, and I didn't hear anything from either of them. On Jane's birthday, things were a little tense and awkward, but I thought it was going good, until my wife decided to be passive-aggressive with a speech about how good it is to have family together during important events. Everyone saw through her crap, and my son Jack, age 23, called her out on it, and said that she was selfish to bring this up on Jane's birthday. Christy started defending her mother, and Jane, understandably upset, revealed that the only reason Christy was on their mother's side for reconciliation was because she didn't want the fact that she not only knew about the affair, but helped her mother cover it up. There was a big fight that wasn't going to get resolved right then and there. I ended up leaving and was even more heartbroken all over again. Not only did my wife betray me, but my own daughter too. I knew she was closer to her mother than me, and I was okay with that, but this? I don't know what I did to make my eldest daughter so disloyal to me, but I am now resolved to go full no contact with her until after the divorce and possibly for the rest of my life. Even if she was manipulated by her mother, she's still an adult and should have known better. I wouldn't blame OP if he disowned her. And now to the second story. Discovered. I am not my daughter's biological father. I just found out my 15-year-old daughter is not my biological child. My daughter was preparing for a family tree project for an online class and wanted an ancestry test. My father is half Native American, but he died several years ago, and I don't know precisely what Native American blood is in the family. My daughter came to me because it was my father, and we didn't mention it to her mother at the time. Well, it turned out my daughter doesn't have any Native American blood. I assumed there was a mistake. My first thought was that my father hadn't been part Native American. So I took the test and everything became apparent. It was a very emotional situation for me and my daughter. What I will remember the most was after she started crying, she hugged so tightly and just kept saying over and over, "I love you, Daddy." At home, I confronted my wife, and she looked like she'd had a stroke. She started crying and apologizing, you can probably imagine it. My wife and I got married because she was pregnant. We had been together for more than a year when it happened. It turns out she was sleeping with multiple guys at the time. She says it didn't mean anything, and she doesn't even remember some of their names. When she realized she was pregnant, she said she wasn't sure who her father was. Since I was unaware of her extracurricular activities, she let me believe I was the father because I was the most financially stable. In terms of that, she may have chosen correctly. I have been very successful in my career, and building passive income streams has been a hobby of mine for a long time. My daughter got my wife to admit to this on tape, as my daughter records the whole thing. I asked my wife several times, and she keeps insisting that she has been faithful for the entire time we have been married. I've never suspected anything, but I also didn't realize she was sleeping around before we got married, so I've said I don't believe her. I've come across a lot of their red flags of cheaters, and I can't think of any of them during our marriage. She doesn't use social media, and she has never been guarded about her phone. She only drinks on special occasions and doesn't go out for girls' night or anything. Also, she is a stay-at-home wife/mom, so here aren't any coworkers to worry about. She exercises at home as we have a very nice home gym. I don't believe her when she says she hasn't cheated after getting married, but I can't think of anything suspicious. We have a prenup, so I'm not worried about divorce, if it comes to that. She is absolutely livid about the whole situation. My daughter can't stand to be around her mother. She has said some truly awful things to her mother, basically variations of calling her a dirty woman who ruined our family. Whenever my wife tries to talk to her, my daughter yells and swears and cries like I have never seen. Christmas is coming up, and my daughter is demanding my wife leave the house until after New Year's so she can spend time with her real family, meaning me. My daughter has even come to me privately, saying that in the event of divorce, she wants to stay with me. She has even asked if it is possible to disown her mother and be adopted by me. My wife is preparing to leave for her parents' house for the holidays. My wife and I had talked about the situation, but have decided to wait until after New Year's to make any decisions. I admit I'm grateful she agreed to leave because honestly I need some time to process this. And the update. I did have a proper test done and confirmed that my daughter is not biologically related to me. Regardless, I have raised her for 15 years and she will always be my daughter. I have heard the arguments against this and I remain unconvinced. My relationship with my wife has always been good. She has always been a wonderful wife and mother, but I admit that this situation has raised some obvious doubts and obstacles. After my wife left, my daughter calmed down considerably, but is still obviously shaken. We managed it out and she explained why she got so upset. Apparently, she knows kids at school whose parents are divorced because of infidelity. In most of the cases, especially when the mother was the one cheating, the father tended to distance himself from the family. My daughter knows of one child, not a close friend, whose father moved across the country after the divorce. The father only sees his children once or twice a year now. All of this was going through my daughter's head when she realized what her mother had done. My wife wants to talk with me and my daughter very much, basically just to give her a chance to explain. My birthday is a few days before Christmas, and my daughter has agreed to a video chat with her mother. I assured my daughter that if all she wants to do is listen, then that's fine. That's what happened since, and I guess I'll just have to wait and see what happens next. You don't forgive this kind of betrayal. Cheating is bad, but getting knocked up by someone else is even worse. Time to start divorce process. And the next update. My daughter and I have been spending a lot of time together, just playing games and watching movies and stuff like that. But even if I'm doing work on my computer or anything else around the house, she just wants to be in the same room as me, even if she is just playing on her iPad. After the initial shock of everything that happened, I started to calm down and reminded myself of a few things. I think the reason I have been so successful is that I don't make emotional decisions or act rashly or hastily. I have always taken time to evaluate a situation and make choices based on evidence. So I hired professional help. I had a private investigator keep an eye on my wife. She has location service on her phone and GPS on her car, but the PI confirmed that she only left her parents' house once to go to the supermarket. Her parents had called me after a couple days wanting to know if my wife was okay. My father-in-law said my wife only left her room for meals and hadn't left the house since. The supermarket was a day or two later. The second guy I hired was tech-savvy. He is a friend of a friend and helped me go through my wife's computer and phone and accounts. I was both impressed and unnerved about what this guy was capable of doing. We did a deep search that went back years. I don't want to go into all the details of my investigation, but I found zero evidence of any type of affair. All of this made me think a lot. I reread my original post, and I realized that what I wrote about getting married because of the pregnancy might have meant more than I thought. Maybe we didn't get married for love. I certainly think we have grown to love each other, and I still think we are in love. I realized that she lied, but something really great came from that, and my wife's efforts to stay home and be a good wife and mother may have all been intentional and a sign of her remorse and guilt for everything she had done. My wife has been discreetly contacting me since leaving the house, and we have chatted a little, but it's not about important stuff. After thinking about everything I didn't find, I agreed to talk with her after my daughter went to sleep. She did not look so great. She had obviously been crying and probably not sleeping well. It was a long conversation, but she just apologized again for lying. She said she had always hoped I was the father. She admitted that she was young, dumb, reckless, and irresponsible, but getting pregnant made her reevaluate everything. She said she regrets blurting out that she chose me because I was the most financially stable, although she admits that was part of it. She had a long list of reasons why she chose me. I'm not going to summarize everything, but I believe she is sincere when she says all she wants is to do whatever it takes for us to be able to be a family again. We agreed it may never be exactly as it was before, but I said I'm not ready to throw away the best 15 years of my life. Yes, that is exactly what they have been. I have to admit that I could not have asked for a better wife or mother for my child. The sense of relief seemed to overwhelm her, and she broke down crying again. Today is my birthday, and as planned, the three of us had our talk online. My daughter was very quiet for most of it. I talked a little about what we had been doing while I was at her parents'. Nothing too exciting. Then my wife said to my daughter that she just wants to explain herself. She did not try to justify herself or put the blame on anything or anyone else. Basically, she told our daughter the same things she told me. It was a long conversation, but it was good that my daughter was very attentive, and the only thing she asked was if my wife knew who her real dad was. I was unexpectedly moved by my wife's answer. Your real dad is sitting next to you. That made my daughter cry openly. She apologized for the things she said to her mother in the beginning. I admit that my wife may have just been stroking my ego and saying what she knew I wanted to hear. Based on the fact that I could find no evidence of my wife being unfaithful, I think we can move past this. My daughter is going to start counseling after the new year, and eventually we will have couple at family therapy as well. We talked about having Christmas together in a few days as a family. This whole thing has been a real roller coaster, but I'm optimistic at the moment. I was having a drink by myself to toast my birthday after my daughter went to bed. While I appreciated what my wife said, I also mulled over my daughter's comment about her real father, which stung more than I expected. I don't think she meant to hurt me, and I won't bring up the topic of her biological father unless she does. For now, we're spending quality time together, and it's been wonderful. Geez, OP thinks it's some kind of flex that she chose him. Of course she'll choose him. He's her ATM. She cheated on him. God knows with how many dudes. OP is getting someone else's leftovers. And now, to the final update. We spent Christmas Eve at my wife's parents' house, joined by my brother and mother. My wife, daughter, and I agreed to remain polite and cordial while maintaining some distance. It was a typical family gathering and went well. That evening, my wife came home with us, and she and my daughter had some time to talk alone before my daughter went to her room for the night. When my wife and I were alone, we talked further. She admitted that after getting pregnant, she realized that she had to grow up, and she said she worked as hard as possible and did everything she could think of to be the perfect wife and mother. By this point, we were actually in our bedroom. She got down on her knees and said she will redouble her efforts to be even better. She said she knew I was considering divorce, but all she said was, "Please give me a chance to prove myself." She said if there was anything I needed from her, she would do it without hesitation. All she wanted was to keep our family together. It's difficult to fully describe the emotion of everything that has happened, but I believe in her sincerity. At this moment, we shared an intimate and emotional reconnection. Christmas was good. It was our first time alone as a family since the truth came out. We enjoyed our traditional breakfast, watched It's a Wonderful Life, and exchanged gifts. One of our presents to my daughter was a video game console, and she suggested a family game night. This made my wife cry. Though emotional, the day was positive overall. With therapy planned after the new year, I'm hopeful for our future. While outcomes vary for others in similar situations, I believe my family can heal and move forward. Thank you to everyone who commented. Your support meant more than I expected. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. OP is a doormat. If he wasn't rich or there was no prenup, she would have left him a long time ago. Viewers, I included this story to show how some men can be doormats. Keep your heads up, know your worth, and remember, you deserve better. And with that, we'll wrap up today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out. See you next time. Bye-bye.